Hey, Ted.
Hi, Ted.
Nice to see
you.
You betcha.
So, Ted, we're here to discuss buprenorphine today, and my first question for you is, when is it appropriate to consider buprenorphine as an agent for someone?
So buprenorphine is a really useful component in the management of patients who have the dual diagnosis, the double diagnosis of a substance use disorder and also a chronic pain syndrome, which you might consider giving opiates for. If you think about it, if in the patients who have a substance use disorder, it's dangerous to give them any controlled drugs, except for two. One, buprenorphine, as part of an opiate treatment program, and secondly, potentially methadone by referring them to a methadone clinic. The buprenorphine can be really helpful because it's an opioid. It will relieve pain. It will satisfy the drug hunger of the substance use disorder brain. And it's legal to give it to patients. Patients with a substance use disorder also need to be involved in a counseling program to help actually put their addictive disease or their substance use disorder into remission. I think about a substance use disorder as sort of an existential hole in the soul of a patient that aches, and it makes everything else worse. So as long as they've got this ache in their brain called substance use disorder, you can never make any progress on their back pain or their fibromyalgia or their whatever chronic pain. So they need a treatment program to ease up the existential ache of addiction, and then potentially buprenorphine to help you figure out what to do about the opiate. When patients are on opiates with a substance use disorder, you can't pretend like you don't know they have a substance use disorder and just keep giving opiates. That can be fatal. So you have to do something about the opioids. It's either detox, refer them to a detox unit or do outpatient withdrawal management, switch to buprenorphine, which is a great option, or refer to a methadone clinic. But it has to be one of those three options. It can't be, let's just pretend like you don't have a substance use problem and let me keep giving you narcotic pain relievers. So the part that's at the front of all of our brains as doctors is, what the heck do we do about the opiates when we found a person with a substance use problem and a chronic pain problem who's on opiates? But that's actually the easy part. The hard part is convincing the patient to participate in a recovery program so they can ease the hole in their soul that aches called addiction and start making progress with their pain management.
So once you decide on buprenorphine, how does that work out practically in terms of how you actually implement it?
Well, from a practical standpoint, if there's a patient with a substance use disorder who has chronic pain and is on opiates, you first need to figure out what to do about the opiates. As we mentioned, you could detox, you could refer to a methadone program, or begin buprenorphine. But you can't just keep prescribing the opiates. Secondly, you really need to get this patient to become involved in a well-rounded 12-step recovery program for their addiction, for the hole in their soul that aches and is sabotaging the rest of their life. And the third is to reintroduce the biobehavioral model, because the biobehavioral model will work in a person who's in recovery from addiction, whereas it fails always in a patient who's still actively addicted. Now, to address that opiate issue, how you practically get a person onto buprenorphine, the best way to do it is to point out that it's no longer safe to continue to prescribe opiates and that you've stopped prescribing. Number two, offer the buprenorphine as an option. If the patient agrees to it, point out that the buprenorphine is an option either for short-term detox, for a taper over a week or two, or for longer-term maintenance. And number three, start the buprenorphine once they're in withdrawal. So again, there are buprenorphine training courses, an 8-hour training course, so people can learn the nuances and the nuts and bolts of buprenorphine, but it works beautifully. You say, Tom, I'm finished with prescribing opiates. I can no longer safely prescribe them. But you mentioned you might want to take buprenorphine. I will offer it to you as a detox over a matter of several days. If you and I both decide that it works well and you want to stay on it long term, I might consider that. But go home and come back when you're having some opiate withdrawal. And these are the symptoms of opiate withdrawal. And when you come back, I will start the buprenorphine at 2 milligrams twice a day, potentially up as much as 4 milligrams twice a day. That works.
How does one get a waiver, and who do you think should obtain a waiver?
I think that anyone who prescribes opioids on a chronic basis to any patients honestly has, you could even call it an ethical obligation to get a waiver. I think about it kind of like flying an airplane. Starting to prescribe opiates on a long-term basis to a patient is sort of like taking off in an airplane. Having a buprenorphine waiver is like knowing how to land the airplane. And if you don't know how to land, you probably shouldn't take off. Getting a buprenorphine waiver is simple. You take an 8-hour online or mix in-person online course. You apply to both the FDA, the DEA, and SAMHSA to get the waiver, and you get a special DEA number to prescribe buprenorphine in the treatment of substance use disorders. So getting the waiver is simple. Deciding to get the waiver is hard. But again, I think that having that waiver available to you, even if you don't advertise it in the community, opens the opportunity to sit down with a patient and say, I'm stopping your opiates, Tom, and you're likely to have withdrawal. And I can refer you for detox, but Tom never wants to go for detox. Or when you have withdrawal, I can manage your detox with some buprenorphine as an outpatient in a 6 or 8 day taper. And if that taper works, and if you want to stay on the buprenorphine and I agree to keep you on it, I could even potentially keep you on the buprenorphine to treat your pain as well as to treat your addiction, as long as you participate in an addiction recovery program. So I think everyone should get a waiver. And the way to get it is just to take an online course and apply.
That was very helpful, Ted. Thank you. Clearly, buprenorphine is a special drug compared to other opioids. What are the specific properties that make it acceptable in substance use disorder when most other opioids are not?
Tom, it's really interesting. Buprenorphine is a truly unique opioid. It is a partial mu agonist, which means it partially stimulates the mu or the morphine receptor. It's a weak euphoriant, therefore. It doesn't produce very much euphoria. It has a plateauing of its respiratory depressant effect. So if a person overdoses on it, they don't stop breathing. It produces less sedation. It produces less change in vital signs. As a consequence, it may be a more useful opiate in some ways for people perhaps with obstructive sleep apnea or severe COPD, etc. But what's really interesting about it is extremely potent in terms of analgesia. So to summarize, buprenorphine is 20 to 40 times stronger than morphine for pain relief. But it's less respiratory depressant, and it plateaus its respiratory depressant effect. It's less sedating, and it's way less of a euphoriant. So patients don't get as high, and they get a lot of pain relief. So that's why the DEA, the FDA, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration have released buprenorphine for the outpatient treatment of opiate addiction, as opposed to like methadone, where you have to go to the methadone program and take it every day at the program. With buprenorphine, it's safe as a prescription because of its safety in terms of respiratory depression. From a pain management standpoint, it's interesting. Since buprenorphine is a potent analgesic, if you have a patient with substance use disorder and chronic pain, whatever part of their pain is opiate responsive will respond to buprenorphine. So the fraction of a patient's pain that responds to opiates will ease up with the buprenorphine. The buprenorphine also will block withdrawal. It'll get rid of their cravings for other opiates. And then you can add in the biobehavioral model to take care of the part of the pain that's not opiate responsive, as well as a recovery program to take care of that existential hole in the soul that aches and has been sabotaging your treatment efforts up until now.
Ted, this was extremely helpful. Thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome.